Hello, I'm Specialist Gano, Area 3 Boss Treasurer, here with First Sergeant Vasquez of HHC United States Army Garrison Company. Welcome to our virtual SRB reading class.
Good afternoon, viewers. I am First Sergeant Vasquez. I'm the HHC First Sergeant for USAG Humphreys. This afternoon we'll be conducting the actual brief for the SRB, Soldiers Records Brief, which is an important sheet which talks about your promotions, your assignments, and anything dealing to do with your records in the military. The first section I'm going to be going and covering this afternoon is going to be the assignment information, which is going to be section 1, located in the top left-hand corner. Starting from the top, you have OS and deployment combat duties. When you're looking at that for your start and your end date, anytime a service member is deployed, it's going to annotate on your left portion where you went, let alone to the right-hand side, it's going to go how many months were you deployed and how many times have you been, and if you have more than one deployment. To your right, you would see your CORs is an acronym for stating whether it was a combat tour, overseas tour, or any type of other tours. So based on your actual deployments, for whatever the nature that they were, it's going to annotate the dates in there. Really simple. Following down the deployment combat duty or any type of deployments, on the bottom section, you're going to see your dual time. Your dual time is going to have a start and an end date. The start and end date goes based on, if for instance in my case, let's say First Sergeant Vasquez was to be deployed Kuwait or any particular location. The moment that deployment or that overseas tours ends, your dual time is considered any time, any space that you have provided after that deployment where in this case you have not been deployed again. So that's always going to be counted towards you. The military likes to pass assignments to the majority of the soldiers as far as having not only a combat deployment, but an overseas deployment. They like to make sure that those assignments get placed on all the soldiers, so that way you don't have soldiers going back-to-back deployments or overseas deployments. So your dual time is determined. If you have a dual time more than 2 or 3 years, they will look at your records, particularly human resources in the Army HRC, and they'll determine from there, hey, in this case, First Sergeant Vasquez hasn't been deployed. He's been in the States for too long, so maybe we want to assign him on an overseas deployment unless his own unit is actually deploying. Looking down and going back a little bit, your DROS. Your DROS date is going to be the date when you're supposed to be coming back. So for instance, me as a First Sergeant, I just recently came to Camp Humphreys about 2 months ago. It's a 1-year assignment for me as of right now, so based on the date that I arrive to Camp Humphreys, it's going to go forward 12 months. In this case, let's say July or August of 2021. So that'll be your DROS, or in this case, your date when you will be returning back to the States. Looking for allowance talks about your primary MOS and your secondary MOS. In some cases, you have individuals that came in for a certain MOS, and 2 years down the line, they decided they want to convert to another MOS. So the Army will have it on your records and will show you that your primary MOS in this case, and I use myself as an example, not only am I an infantryman, but I'm also a motorman, which is 2 different MOSs, so 11 Bravo and 11 Charlie. My primary MOS is 11 Bravo, but my secondary MOS is 11 Charlie. Not that I'm going to be working on both, but some folks sometimes have more than just one primary MOS. SQIs and SIs are identifiers that you would have, particularly when the Army sends you to military school. So in this case, let's say you go to equal opportunity school, you go to Sharp School, you go to Master Fitness schools, and any other schools that will give you an identifier. The same thing will go with if you go to Air Assault School or Parachuter School, which you'll see an identifier as a PAPAS and P that would be designated in there, part of your actual MOS. It also goes in detail accounting for your bonus enlisted date. If you happen to re-enlist or you came in with enlisted and you receive a bonus, it would have a date in there. So in this case, your supervisor can look at this soldier's record brief, and he or she can actually see anything pertaining to you, particularly assignments. If you're a brand new soldier coming in, he or she would determine, hey, in this case, let's say Private Vasquez came in enlisted about 3 months ago and he received a $15,000 or $12,000 bonus, and they can see it on their sheet. The same thing goes with promotion sequence. Promotion sequence is more for senior leaders, in this case, senior non-commissioned officers. So the moment they become a staff sergeant, so the Army will have boards every year for sergeant first classes, master sergeants, and so forth. So you'll see in there the promotion sequence based on how many people they have for that particular year. Eventually you'll be given a sequence number if you're to make it. If you're not, then the sequence number won't be annotated in there. And it also will give you, if you have a sequence number, it will tell you the actual promotion date when your sequence number should be coming in. For a long promotion for MOS, we'll tell you information about your promotion MOS. And the big one in here, though, the SRB entirely is really important. One of the things that affects how your career will go forward, particularly if you want to go become a warrant officer, become an OCS, or even certain schools that require certain GT scores, which is nothing more than it gets taken away from your ASVAB score. You'll see in there in GT, it's going to be your overall score. This score gets divided into 3 different things. It's going to be your arithmetic, your reading, comprehension. Once that number gets dissected, it'll give you whether it's a 110 or 92. So the one SRB that you'll be seeing, which is the one that I have annotated on the bottom, in this case it has a soldier that actually scored 92 in the GT. It has the administration portion, your electronics, and every other single score. For certain MOSs that you want to go and transition to, is going to require certain scores, what we call line scores. So let's say you were to be a combat medic, and you want to transition to another MOS, let's say in this case engineering, you might have to take a math test in order to be able to swap out for such MOSs. Further along that has delay separation. Do you have any, or any Army emergency relief funds that you might have, and when the date? Right below that you have flat codes. Flat codes are nothing more than codes that are given to an individual when he or she has not passed certain requirements that the Army requires of them. 2 of the biggest ones that you would see is failure to pass an APFT back then. Now with the October coming in, now the ACFT is actually the record test of choice in this case, although right now we're just working with diagnostics, as the Army's given every Army soldier an extra year, 2 years to be able to dissect the ACFT and become better at it. So the APFT is no longer valid. You also have such codes for people that don't pass their height and weight. So you'll see those codes in there. Every time you receive a code, it's going to give you a start date, and furthermore, it's going to give you a date when that flat code was extinguished or it was expired, based on the soldier, in this case in point, passing the ACFT or passing the high weight. So at this time I have described section 1, which is the assignment information, which goes along with your dwell time, your ASVAB, and anything dealing with your primary MOS, your secondary MOS. So I hope that this was informative for you, and later on we're going to cover section 2. So I appreciate your understanding. Thank you.
Thank you for watching our virtual SRB reading class, and special thanks to First Sergeant Vasquez for helping. We hope you learned something, and join us next week for our next installment of our Tactical Tuesdays.